But I can talk a little bit about the water side of things too,
Yeah.
because I've been obsessed with water just as long as I've been obsessed with grounding, and so that holds a very dear place in my heart. But yeah, I wrote about this, and this is the first chapter of part 2 of my book. It's called The Big Three. So the big three, as far as what grounding is doing from a mechanistic standpoint: 1, it's increasing the density of negative charge in your body. 2, it's attenuating the oxidative stress, inflammation response. Number 3 is that it charges the water protein matrix battery, and that's where we get into the matrix. And so what's been popularized lately is this EZ water, this fourth phase water that's been popularized by Gerald Pollack. And Gerald Pollack has done a lot of really cool research in this area, but it's also important to realize that this kind of research has been going on a long time before Gerald Pollack came along, and it all dating back to like the 40s and the 50s with Albert Szent-Györgyi. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Albert Szent-Györgyi, but he was a Hungarian scientist who received the Nobel Prize for the synthesis of vitamin C. But another area that he was heavily interested in was water and energy transfer in the body. And he was really one of the pioneers as far as quantum biology goes. But what he realized is that the body needs faster mechanisms of energy transfer to explain how we're able to operate so quickly, so efficiently, especially in situations where we're just split second decisions need to be made, movements need to be made. And so his whole idea with water is that it organizes itself next to these macromolecules, particularly proteins, to create this lattice-like structure. And we can get into semiconductors and all that in a little bit, but essentially what this does is it creates a mechanism of really, really fast energy transfer throughout the body that's much faster than the nervous system, the circulatory system. So a lot of this started with Albert Szent-Györgyi, and even after that, you have Emilio Giordis, and along with that, you have Mae-Wan Ho, who I've been obsessed with for a long time now. And then you have Gerald Pollack, along with Gilbert Ling. Gilbert Ling's he's in the mix. He's in the mix there. But yeah, so this is the last chapter of part 2 in the book. It's called Earth and Matrix. So it's how grounding influences the matrix, and water is a big part of that. So when I say the matrix, I'm referring to the extracellular matrix in the body. That's connective tissues. So what is extracellular matrix? So when you look at a tissue and you see cells, you don't really think about the area in between the cells. And that's a majority of what tissue is. It's the space in between cells. That's the extracellular matrix. So this is essentially this is what the cells are suspended in, is this matrix. So what is this extracellular matrix? It's a collection of cells, fibers like collagen, and ground substance. It's interestingly called ground substance, and it's very much related to grounding, I believe. Not because that's what they intended, but it's interesting that it's called that. But you have this extracellular matrix, which is physically connected to these integrin proteins, which traverse cell membranes. And that further connects into the cytoskeleton of the cell, which is essentially the scaffolding of the cell and kind of this highway. So this whole matrix is essentially this highway for energy transfer. And even further from the cytoskeleton, this cytoskeleton connects into these link complexes, which goes into the nuclear envelope, into the actual DNA itself. So this allows energy transfer from the outside all the way into the DNA, from the DNA all the way to the outside. So it's bidirectional. But this is essentially this superhighway of energy transfer in the body. And one of the ways that it's charged up is through light and grounding. The light aspect of it is talked about a lot more than the grounding aspect of it, but grounding is a big part of that. So, in the Matrix, this is a very heavy, complex kind of topic. So I'm trying to break it down as much as I can. So the ground substance within the extracellular matrix, this is composed of these glycoconjugates. So these glycosaminoglycans, these proteoglycans, these cell adhesive glycoproteins. So these glycosaminoglycans they're these repeating chains of disaccharides. So they are heavily sulfated. So they trap a lot of water, and they're negatively charged. So what you have are these reservoirs throughout your entire body of these glycosaminoglycans and the trapped water, these negatively charged areas, which essentially is this whole body redox system that can be depleted. And it could be depleted when you're not connected to the earth. So when you're connected to the earth, essentially these electron stores get saturated. And so when they're saturated, they can be used for a plethora of different purposes. One, energy production, ATP production, and two is in immune response. So back to attenuating that oxidative stress response when needed, neutralizing free radicals when needed. And so this easy water, what is it? And again, you've talked about this already, so I don't want to get too redundant here, but a big part of this matrix is proteins. These cytoskeletons, the nucleoskeleton, it's mostly protein. And when water comes into contact with this protein, it essentially orders itself next to that protein. And so let's say you have, your hydrophilic protein here, you have the water here. The water starts to organize itself right next to that hydrophilic surface on the protein. So here you have your structured water. Here, right outside that structured water, you have the bulk water. But right beyond that ordered water, you have this collection of hydronium ions, which is essentially H3O+. So that's what happens when water collects a hydrogen ion. So essentially what that does is you have this area, this easy water, this ordered water next to the hydrophilic surface of the protein, which is negatively charged. Right outside that, you have this collection of hydronium ions, which is positively charged. What do you have? You have a separation of charges. So this is essentially a body-wide battery that can be charged up and used for whatever your body needs it for. I've already stated a couple ones that are really important: ATP production, energy production, literally maintaining that gradient within the inner mitochondrial matrix to produce ATP. Because what does it need? It needs protons. Needs electrons. Yeah. So essentially what you have is a battery. And how do we charge that battery up? Sunlight. What's really good at it? Near infrared radiation. And then number 3, grounding. So grounding is a big part of that. And I'm not sure if we talked about it the last time, but I had mentioned inflammatory barricades. And we had talked about antioxidants, conducted antioxidants, chemical antioxidants. So let's say you have a pathogen in the body, and your body walls off this area where there's acute inflammation, oxidative stress, creates the inflammatory barricade, which is relatively impermeable to circulating antioxidants, anti-inflammatory molecules. But what this inflammatory barricade is essentially this walled off sac of connective tissue. So you think connective tissue, extracellular matrix. And so what this inflammatory barricade is in the body is it's essentially an extension of the matrix. And so an important aspect of this connective tissue, particularly collagen, which is the third makes up a third of the protein in your body. It's very, very abundant. It's semiconductive. So electrons can semiconduct through this connective tissue. So essentially you have this semiconductive protein, ordered water, that has electrons in it, free electrons, and then you have protons outside of that. So this is just one huge battery that's just distributed throughout your body. And I believe this might be the actual biophysical basis for the meridian system. So I believe, and there are a few others out there that believe, that the meridian system is it's this low impedance pathway for electrical energy, not just electrical energy, but light, photons, sound, vibrations, all of this to travel through to create energy for the body, for energy production and immune function. So this might be the actual biophysical basis for that meridian system, and how acupuncture works. But yeah, so these inflammatory barricades that we had talked about in the last podcast, these can be resolved because they're an extension of the matrix, and electrons can essentially semiconduct through these proteins and the ordered water that's in conjunction with that to get to these areas to neutralize these excessive reactive species. But yeah, hopefully, I've broken that down enough, because there's a lot in that. But it's a bio battery. It's a bio battery. It needs to be charged up. How does it get charged up? Light and grounding, earth and sun. So,
bam.
Yeah.
That's really it. Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And yeah, it makes total sense when you think about the need for instantaneous communication in our biology, right? Like, this needs to happen at the speed of light. Like, biochemistry is not fast enough. And this is the foundation for everything. Mm-hmm. And then when you disrupt that via dysfunctional mitochondria, never going outside, never being connected, yeah, you're going to have a whole host of issues. In any system, if your communication pathway is disrupted, how are the right actions going to be executed? Just like, that's how I think about it, right? So to me, I just think about our entire biology as giving your body the right input signals. And you're going to do that through exactly what you just said: light, connection to the earth, obviously, eating real food that's local, seasonal. Because when you're disrupting that, when you're creating this mismatch, you're giving your body the wrong signal, or you're disrupting its ability to communicate effectively, and then chaos, or aka inflammation, will ensue afterwards. So yeah,